Hey there, KDTV, I'm Gene. We're here inside the park in what will soon become the newly rethemed Safari Village. And of course, not too far from where I'm standing right now, dozens and dozens of animals used to roam the ground as part of King's Dominion's Lion Country Safari. And of course, we're talking to influential people who made a significant impact on King's Dominion to make the park what it is today. This is part 2 of 4 with our former general manager, Dennis Speigel, who will reflect back upon King's Dominion's Lion Country Safari.
We found out early on that animals are different than running roller coasters. When you leave the park at night, when you're running just an attractions park, you turn out the light, everything goes off. That isn't true with the animals. You have medical, you have needs, you have to have people on site all the time because they are wild animals. And we had, I think it was 200 acres out here of approximately 200 acres of wild animals. And I can still remember hearing and getting calls from neighbors who could hear the lions roaring 5 and 10 miles away. None of us in the company knew a lot about animals. We had specialists who came to us. We had a licensing agreement with Lion Country Safari out of California, and we had personnel that they sent in who we worked with, who meshed with us quite well, became part of our staff, just another arm or department within the parks. We learned a lot about the difficulties. I mean, there were a lot of issues we had to deal with. For example, one day, Volkswagen, when it was a drive-through, was out in the veldt, and a rhinoceros kept backing up on it and crushed the front end. And the lady's blowing the horn, and little did we know until our husbandry individual told us the rhinoceros was trying to mate with the Volkswagen and was crushing the Volkswagen. He was trying to get up on the car. So we had numerous tire punctures. Lions love the smell of rubber, and the lions would come around the cars and they would lay down by the tires and they would just grab a hold of it. They'd bite the tires. And these people would be sitting there. We bought hundreds of tires. Volkswagen buses had rubber strips and running boards, and the lions would come up to those and they would grab them and just peel them all the way down. One day, probably one of the funniest but most scary was a family came up complaining of guest relations. A lion walked up the trunk of their new Cadillac, climbed up on the roof, laid across the roof and looked in the window at them like this and wouldn't get off. And they didn't know how to get off of it. When it decided to get off, this was during the period you had these canvas roofs on cars. I can't remember what they called it, but the lion decided to peel the roof and peeled this 1-week-old Cadillac, peels its roof, and then walks down the car with its claws. We had to totally buy a new Cadillac for this family, so because it ruined the roof, ruined their paint job, crushed the monorail. Was a great experience. You know, it's amazing looking back on it today. You had all these animals outside 1/4 inch of plexiglass, and a lion can literally rip the door off of an automobile. It's that strong. And here were all these passengers in these monorails with this little plexiglass window, and they're looking out, and the lions are looking at them. And we never had an incident, never had an issue in that regard. It was always, years later, I thought back on that and thought, that's pretty amazing. We didn't, how do you know you don't have a crazy lion? He decides to run into the window and gets in the train. It never happened. We didn't have anything like that. So.
What was your favorite animal in Lion Country Safari?
My favorite two were probably the tigers and the giraffes. I mean, they're just beautiful. And the rhinoceros and the hippopotamus were funny to watch. I mean, we go out at night in our Jeeps and just watch them and see what they do. And, people didn't know, and I didn't know back then, that a hippopotamus is kind of like a pulling guard. For about 10 yards, he can run about 40 miles an hour, and they can chase you down and knock into your car and actually turn you over. One night we got stuck out there with some lions. We had a muffler acting up on the Bronco, and the lions started running into our Jeep. There were 4 of us in the Jeep, and we had our radios, and we were calling the Rangers to come and get us, and I had to keep driving up over these hills, and these animals were smacking into us, and one of the lions, the back window of this Bronco was open. It kind of had a hang-down window, and he got up, and his claws were in the bead of the rain bead of the car, and I'm driving through there. Well, I don't want to hurt the lion, but I'm thinking if he noses down, he's going to come right into this car. So I had everybody lie on the floor of the Jeep. So I've got Chance Hester, Don Palmer, and some of our marketing guy. They're all on the floor, and I'm driving this Jeep and trying to get us out of this area. So that was pretty funny, but it was awfully pretty scary. We didn't go back in with a noisy muffler anymore. It was a different experience working with the animals. People loved them, and it brought a lot of people here. But after, I can't remember how many years, it was time to move them on, and we changed that whole area and developed it.